What is up, everyone? I am so sorry about this little 2-week hiatus I had there. It wasn't for nothing though. I have been working on a little website for you. All these PDFs were really hard to be able to get to people, so I figured why not make a little website. You guys can click a link. It'll be in the description. It'll take you to the pilot resource page, and they'll all be there for you to download for free. There is an option. Don't feel obligated to. I think I put like the full guide. That one's $10. It's a donation. Literally, there's nothing different from that one to all the ones below it. So don't feel obligated at all. Just scroll right on past that and download them. There's no like special thing in there at all. I know that we are all in our CFI phase. You know, we're probably loads of money in debt. So don't feel like you have to donate in the slightest. But if you do subscribe, that would be very kind. That one's free. And if you're really feeling cheeky, go ahead and throw a like and a comment down below. But all jokes, I actually do love seeing everybody's comments. It's been really cool. I'll literally go to YouTube to look at my notifications rather than any social media, because I'm like, is there anyone watching my videos today? So I really appreciate all of the nice comments that everybody's left. But other than that, link in the description for these FOI PDFs, and let's hop right into Task C, get right to it. So Task C is going to go over course development, lesson plans, classroom training techniques. So as one would think, teaching is the primary job of the flight instructor, and learning how to use lesson plans and training techniques will be essential for effective teaching. Who would have thought? Teaching is to instruct or to train. CFI candidates are expected to have a great understanding of aviation and can guide their learners smoothly through their training. Yeah, we would hope that you have a pretty good understanding of aviation if you're going to be training the next generation of pilots. But just remember, you don't need to know everything. So just keep that in mind. We're never a finished project. We're always trying to get better and moving forward. Number 2, we have the teaching process, PPAR. This is the acronym that everyone basically uses. I didn't make it up in any way. It's from these references in here. So it's proven that it works, you know. So basically, this is for organizing material and is taught so that the student can understand it. So the first P is going to be preparation or planning. This is when you put together your syllabus, lesson plans, anything else that you're preparing before you present it. And then P is your presentation. A is going to be your application. So whatever you're going over, like maybe you are teaching steep turns, the application would be going out and actually flying it. And then you'd have the R for review and assessment. Basically, you review, you see how well your learner did, and then you assess, and maybe you can use this moment to decide what the next lesson is going to look like. Maybe you need to brush up on other areas, or you can advance. Number 3, we're going to be talking about essential skills. I've seen other people use the acronym PAMS, but I like SPAM, so I use SPAM. All right, but you can be a great pilot, but not a great teacher. And this is a little subject that I want to just touch up briefly on. It's going to sound pretty blunt, but the day and age that we're in right now, there's not that many like pilot job opportunities. So I know that what happens is a lot of people become CFIs when they don't want to be CFIs. And I think that this is a very important thing to think about before you continue on into this journey. I want you to ask yourself, is being an instructor actually for you? Because there's no problem with not being one that like wants to teach or enjoys to teach, because it's not for everyone, you know. But what happens is if you feel like you're going to dread it and you go into it with a bad attitude every day, it's not only like your life that you're affecting, you're also affecting the quality of training that your learner is going to get as well. And that's like 2 years of your life. Do you really want to commit 2 years of your life doing something that you don't enjoy? Try to find a different time building job, whether that be whatever, you know. But I really do feel like strongly about, you know, instructors that don't want to instruct. Please just don't instruct. That's as blunt as it can be. So you can definitely be a great pilot, but not a great teacher, and that shows. So it is important for instructors to be able to understand aviation and their students. So in SPAM, we're going to go over a few of these things that can cover this little bullet point. So S is going to be subject matter expertise. Just like what we started off with, you have to have a pretty good understanding of aviation. So subject matter expertise. Instructors must know a great amount of aviation knowledge, considering how much there is to know and how much there is to teach. Remember, not a finished project. We never will be. We're always going to be learning something new, and that's okay. But we do want to have a good foundation. All right, and then P is going to be people skills. This must be able to understand learners and know how to satisfy their needs and be good at communicating. If you guys had like a bell rung right there, this sounds a lot like our previous lesson, and we will be like talking or touching up on a lot of the things that you've already learned from task A and task B. And that's just how FOI'S work. Everything's intermingled and everything's connected in some sort of way, like satisfying their needs. That's screaming Maslow's hierarchy. Being good at communicating, COIL, the acronym COIL. All of these things are intermingled in some way. And then we have A for assessment skills. So if you can't assess your learner, then there's a couple things that could go wrong, right? So instructors must be able to assess their learners' skills and development and guide them correctly. Two options. Say you assess your student before they go solo, and you're bad at assessing them. You don't really know how to do it. So you hold on to your student before they go solo for like hours and hours after, or vice versa. You send your solo student way too early because you're having trouble trying to figure out like an assessment of their skills, like where are they supposed to be at. You can use a vetted CFI on their knowledge, like have them go fly with them and see what they think, and then you can start to develop those assessment skills on being able to see, okay, they're at this point in their training based off of what I've seen previously. So being able to get some advice from somebody that's done it before is very helpful when learning assessment skills. And then M is going to be management skills. An instructor must be able to plan, lead, organize all aspects of their learners' training. So for example, time management. I mean, if you're flying at like a regular flight school, you might have 2 to 3 hour blocks, and you have to be the one that goes and teaches steep turns, lazy eights, chandelles, slow flight, all of these things that you're trying to fit into that time block before getting back to the beginning of the next lesson. So management skills can obviously play a huge role in that. Number 4, we have course of training. There's an objective that you accomplish after your training, whether that be your private pilot's license, commercial, etc. Instructors must have a plan on how to get their students there smoothly and correctly. So we talk about blocks of learning here. When you start broad and develop basic skills and create a foundation, then build on top of it. This should be used when building a course or a syllabus. So these things kind of relate right back to PPAR, building your course or syllabus. That's all a part of your preparation. And also think about the blocks of learning. If you don't start with the base, like the actual good foundation, then it's really hard to build stuff on top of that. And then next up, we have the lesson plans. These are the individual blocks. So say you have your syllabus. That was probably loud. You have your syllabus, and then within that syllabus, you have these lesson plans all scattered out. But that is all a part of your preparation process. And then they should be organized in a way that makes sense and includes detailed objectives and completion standards. I know further down in here, we talk about a way of being able to organize material to where it makes sense. And number 5, which is probably what we're going to go over right now, preparation of a lesson. So ODPS, I'm just going to highlight that because that's supposed to be highlighted. So overall objectives should be clear and include the desired level of learning from the domains. So just like what we talked about earlier, all of these things are going to be intermingled some way. Cognitive, the affective, and the psychomotor domains. And then D is going to be decision-based skills, designed to develop aeronautical decision-making. As training develops, you start to shift towards this type of lesson. So you don't start off with decision-based skills or decision-based learning with like a brand new private pilot, but over time, you start to develop those skills, and then you start to transfer your teaching into decision-based. Then we have P for performance-based objectives. DCC, this is an acronym within an acronym. So performance-based objectives is to set measurable and reasonable standards. This is a way to be able to do that. D is going to be description of skill, an explanation of the skill or behavior to be learned. So for example, we're trying to learn chandelles, which is a maximum performance climb. The C is going to be for conditions, explain the rules for skills demonstration. So example, you have to do no more than 30-degree bank. That is the conditions that need to be met for your chandelle. And then C is your criteria. So standards measuring the objective's accomplishment. So this should be no question if they passed or not. For example, we have the plus or minus 10 degrees on the rollout. Were they within plus or minus 10 degrees on the rollout? Yes or no? There's no question on if they passed that criteria. And then we have S for standards. So sounds a lot like the criteria. The ACS states specific standards that students have to meet to acquire a certificate or rating. And in the ACS, they do put the criteria that needs to be met. Now, one thing that I like to mention as an instructor is that the ACS standards is the minimums of what a student needs to do. When you're training to send your learner into a check ride, make sure that you have withheld them into even more specific criteria, like plus or minus 5 degrees rather than plus or minus 10. You can definitely push your learner to stay within 50 feet rather than 100 feet. And that really makes the check ride like a cakewalk for them, you know. But next up, we have 6 for organization of material, the IDC, or I don't care. We do care. Sorry, Mom. I is going to be introduction, and then AMO is the acronym within that acronym. And basically, this sets the stage for everything to come. So when you're doing an introduction, I always like to go over the AMO, the attention, and whether that's a story, a video, or a joke. And what I've noticed that if you're trying to grab the attention of somebody, don't do a regurgitated story or something from somebody else. Make it personable, because those are the ones that I've noticed that like are actually attention grabbing for people. And then we have M for motivation. This gets the learner engaged and why it's important. And then the O is overview, tells the learner what is to be covered. So in the overview, just a quick guide of like what we're going to be hitting on the topics today, you know, whether that's like systems or aerodynamics. The overview will go over that. And we'll actually jump back to why that's important here in a second. And then we have D for development. This is the main info and should be organized in a way that makes sense. I know that I mentioned this earlier. This is how we organize info so that it's easily digestible for your learner. So for example, we take past knowledge and then relate it to the present knowledge. We take simple ideas and then to complex. You don't just start off by teaching some sort of complex system with somebody. You simplify it, right? 4-stroke engine. You don't just tell them all the components of an engine. You teach them how little things work, and you make it simple, and then develop their knowledge to being something very complex. And then we do what is known to unknown, and then most frequently used to least frequently. All of these are good ways of being able to shape your lesson plan to where it makes sense for your learner. All right, and then C is going to be for conclusion. So we'll jot back to the overview here in a second. So the conclusion goes back over important elements and relates them to the objective. So for example, so now that we understand all left turning tendencies, we can expect and counteract by applying right rudder during takeoff. So the conclusion gives you the reason of why we're learning something, or something that will benefit for us from learning it. But right up here, this says it goes back over important elements and relates them back to the objective. If you can date back to, I think it was task B, when we go over the reflective thought theory. Well, the conclusion, this is a good opportunity to go back over the overview. And you're just like, yeah, this is actually what we learned during the lesson. We learned about how lift is created. We learned Bernoulli's principle, Newton's third law. And as we go over these things that we went over in the overview during the conclusion, it makes that learner be able to connect the dots. Oh yeah, I do remember us learning about what Bernoulli's principle is. What was that again? And then the reflective thought theory comes into process, and that solidifies it for them. So there's a reason why all of this is created. Like whoever or all the people that have put in this this study to figure out like what's the most beneficial way for people to present information to learn is very, very beneficial. So keep that in mind. Number 7, we have training delivery methods. This is the lecture method, something that professors love to use. And for the acronym is FIT. This is great for larger groups presenting new information and time management. The formal lecture, this is definitely the college professor style. This is to inform, persuade, or entertain with little student participation. This is great for like lots of info and little time. My physics teacher was a pro at that in college, not Mr. Fleming. Mr. Fleming's the GOAT. He's my he's high school physics. He's the guy. Speaking of which, check out Flimdog Science. He has a killer YouTube channel. He's the man. Okay, but I is going to be illustrated talk, and this is the visual aids. And then, so I love personally to use a gyroscope and like pictures and my mini airplanes. I don't have my mini airplane right with me, but I do have a little altimeter setting though, or not setting, but altimeter. I guess my setting is 3028 right now. But I love to have little illustrations for people to, connect the dots. And then we have T for teaching lecture. This is delivered to allow learner participation. Just simply teaching lecture right there. Next up, we have the B. This is discussion. So whether it's a short lecture and then discussion with the learner, this could be like one-on-one stuff. And then we have C, which is the guided discussion. And I really enjoy this like guided discussion idea or this acronym. And this acronym is ORDER. So basically, its goal is to draw out info from the learners, whether it's like a group or if you just have a singular learner. But they are very beneficial for group settings. So for example, all of these, I'm just going to mention that, let's say, we're talking about how is lift created. So for the overhead question, I'm going to ask the whole group, how is lift created? And then hopefully somebody answers. And then for the R, this is rhetorical. So the instructor asks the question, pauses, and then gives the answer. So if I'm talking to a group that I just don't expect to know how lift is created, this is something that I can go about. So how is lift created? And then you take a pause, you do the little dramatic thing, and you go, lift is created by, and then continue on. And then we have D, this is direct, simply just asking somebody out of the group, how is lift created? Then we have R for reverse. This is when a learner asks me a question and I reply with a different question. So this helps the learner piece together their answer without being given it. So for example, somebody's like, how is lift created? And then I can reverse it to them and be like, well, what's Bernoulli's principle? What's Newton's third law? And then hopefully it gets them going, momentum and everything, and then they're able to answer it themselves. And then relay, this is basically when somebody asks you a question and you forget, so you just ask the student and you don't let them know. No, I'm just kidding. But it's when a student asks a question and then you relay the question to another student. So somebody asks me, hey Grayson, how the heck is lift created? And then I'm like, and I look at a different student, I'm like, how's lift created? And hopefully they answer it correctly. But remember, this is the whole point. This is a guided discussion, so you are the guide. You are there to step in on anything that's being taught wrong between the students. So relay is a really really likely one to where a student might say the wrong thing and be teaching the wrong thing to the other. So it's your job to hop in there and be like, actually, that's wrong. But seriously, just keep an eye on the things that they say, and also don't be afraid to like enforce proper aviation terminology, I should say. But next up we have D. This is cooperative or group learning. Organizes learners into small groups to maximize learning. And then we have E, the demonstration performance. You'll use this a lot. This is when you explain and then you demonstrate, and then your student performs it, and then you supervise it, and then at the end you evaluate. The F is going to be drill and practice method. Repetition, exercise helps learners retain information and develop skills. Just like if you don't use it, you lose it kind of deal. And then 8, we have e-learning. This is perfect for self-paced learning. So Sporties, Shepherd Air, Gold Seal, Pilot Institute, Flight Insight. Like literally there's so many. Hopefully my channel could be e-learning one day. But there's some pros to this. This is time flexible, cost effective, and it's easily updated. And some cons, they lack feedback. So, like you're not there to answer any questions that they might have. And then there's limited instruction on certain subjects. And look at that, I already answered this. Can't ask questions. So on e-learning, this one's a huge tip for my potential CFIs out there. It's not going to work for everyone. I know that some people can't pull loans out from their school, or if you're even paying out of pocket, kudos to you. But for me, at my Part 61 school, I had a loan there, and I was able to pull out any money from the loan that's going to help with like my certificates and licenses and everything. So when I got my CFI and I had to refresh back to my CFII stuff, it had been months since I've done any instrument things, and I knew that they would come back to me pretty quickly, but I wanted to be able to fly more often than what I was able to afford basically. So what I did was I took $1,000 out, and I ended up going on Facebook Marketplace. I bought this PC and the monitor and everything off of there with that loan. Literally what I'm using right now, because I do videography and I needed it just for my general life as well. But I did that, and then for the purpose of it, I bought Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. It had literally came out like a day after I passed my CFI. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get this, and then I'm going to download something called VATSIM, VATSIM. I highly recommend anyone that doesn't know what that is to look it up. But essentially, it is a bunch of air traffic controllers that you can log into during flight sim, and you can literally set up instrument flight plans. You can talk to controllers. You can practice literally everything about instrument at your desk. And it's so crazy that is an opportunity for us, and it will save you so much money rather than putting $200 an hour in an airplane. Like 5 hours of flying paid for this PC setup, and I was able to get everything that I needed. I think I did 1 flight or 2 flights, and the second flight was probably my check ride. So it's, as you know, instrument stuff is mostly procedures and being able to talk and everything. So that was very helpful for me. I know that was a big spiel, but I thought it was a cool little thing that I did, and it really helped me out. And I use this PC literally every day. So enough of that. Moving back on to number 9, we have instructional aids and training technologies, characteristics of effective instructional aids. So these are some characteristics. You need to cover over the key points and concepts. And then number 2 are straightforward and factual, making it easy to remember and recall. And then 3, keep it simple, stupid. The KISS method. All right, reasons for use. This assists instructors, clarifies the relationships, and then helps learners connect concepts. So, what this all means, basically, imagine, trying to teach runway incursions, and you have no pictures, no nothing. You don't have any whiteboards or bullet points or anything like that. These are all just very helpful, and following these steps will be able to help you create a good lesson plan for that. Guidelines for use: you need to clearly establish your objective, gather necessary data, and then organize into the lesson plan. Types of aids: we have chalk, marker, board. Literally right behind me, I got this whiteboard, and all I would do is just write up all of my my lesson plans that I was creating. And what I've found was that there are some lesson plans that are just not meant for a whiteboard. And it's 2025, use your iPad, use something like you have Google Slides, Google Docs. You can literally look up anything at your fingertips. It is fun to do stuff on the whiteboard though, because you can illustrate things that you're trying to explain. But like a runway incursion lesson, I found simply way too hard to do on the whiteboard. So be flexible on the type of lessons that you can create. That is something that was hard for me to stray away from. And then number 10, we have integrated flight instruction. This is when learners are taught to perform maneuvers using their flight instruments and using outside visual references. So, transitioning basically back to outside and inside. Pretty straightforward. And then 11, we have problem-based instruction. So lessons based on real-life situations, no single solution. This is teaching HOTS. If you've ever heard of HOTS, this is higher order of thinking. And it kind of jots back to what I was talking about earlier, how we don't want to take a brand new private pilot student and try to teach them this scenario-based training when they're just trying to learn how to do straight and level flight. But when you start to be able to assess your learners and figure out, okay, they're at this point in their training, it's a really good opportunity to start teaching scenario-based training. So when you do, you can use the higher order of thinking and go down this A through F. So set up the problem, determine learning outcomes for the problem, solve the problem or task, reflect on problem solving, and then consider additional solutions through guided discovery, and then reevaluate solution and additional options. So using that, and it is seriously a skill to use, and the only way that we build skills is by practicing them. So don't be afraid to teach higher order of thinking. But that is basically everything for Task C. Little reminder, just in the link in the description, I do have the PDFs. Go over there, download them, freaking study the FOI'S like a mother trucker, and then let me know when you pass your CFI check ride. But that is everything for you guys. Hit the subscribe if you want, but I'll see you in Task D later.